A small girl was in front of me. That is compared to me. I'm 3 meters, so the girl who's less than half my height is indeed small. However, I won't be underestimating her. No, this girl could make me disappear instantly. So I'm dead. The small girl looked at me. Not up, not down, not face, all of me at the same time. I felt like I was at the bottom of the ocean. It felt as if the pressure from the dark abyss was crushing me from all sides. I was totally overwhelmed. If I was correct, and I was dead, the last thing I remember was the liquid going into the tube in my arm. My last meal was a hamburger steak, and my last words were I would do it all over again. If I could just see your face, ha 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 ha. I killed those bastards who raped and murdered my family. I took down an entire company and everyone who had been involved, and then turned myself in. It was grim, but all the worth it. I watched as they begged me for forgiveness. I skinned the president's son alive. That bastard raped my wife in front of me and slit her throat. I burned him and his family with a flamethrower. They screamed as they writhed in pain. I took his daughter and replaced her for my own. I trained her to kill as I was taught in the Navy. I brainwashed her, and when she and I were caught, I abandoned her. I killed 76 people. She killed 54. I was an evil person that only wanted revenge. Everything has a price. You are a pitiable fool. She stood there not moving, like it all. Her mouth never moved. She just spoke, that's all. It spoke with no movements, bathed in a light that could not be looked at directly. I felt as if she was far away, yet her voice entered my ears as if she spoke next to me. I could only see a portion of her at all times. If I looked at her directly, I felt as if I would vanish into oblivion. She scared me, terrified me, yet she soothed me at the same time. I felt a presence that looked through my entire being. There was nothing I could hide. Angelic. You were a monster of many sins. You involved the innocent and twisted them into the grievous. As God is not willing to see you at the moment, I will hand down your punishment. Nyan of God, Michael, will bestow my judgment just as the monster you are. So shall you be. You shall walk as a beast in a world that despises them, hunts them, and skins them. Monsters will welcome you and they will hunt you and kill everyone around you. No, wait a moment. Goodbye. Maybe you shall make a better decision this time. No, this is too much. Sounds of birds could be heard around me. My paws tread the moist leafy grass as I chased my mother through the forest. Her graceful white form turned back a few times to make sure I was close behind. Today was my first hunt. We chased a unicorn through the undergrowth. However fast or elusive they may be, they cannot escape the emperor of the beast of Fenrir. Before long, my mother cornered it, and I ran up and tackled it to the ground. Using my fangs, I crushed its throat, ending its life without pain. Did I do good? I wagged my tail as I asked my mother for praise. Foo, yes, my darling son, you did great. She went up to the majestic horse and picked it up in her massive mouth. The unicorn paled in comparison to her, who stood as tall and as big as the trees. My mother wasn't full grown. If she was, she would be as big as a small mountain. I was smaller than her, but was still as big as the unicorn. My mother was young but older than most humans could age in this world. My mom was very young for a mother, 45 years old. Femur have an indefinite lifespan, but if you were to compare her to a regular canine, she would be about 2, and to a human 14. Mother was indeed young, but she stood above most of the monsters in the great forest in terms of power. She feared nothing. My father was twice as big as her. Keyword was. When my mother was pregnant, he went out to find food but never came back. She went out to find him only to find he was dissected and skinned by humans. They desecrated his corpse for parts and left most of it behind. The mana from his body contaminated the surroundings and killed all the plants and turned the animals into monsters. Humans regarded us as disasters. However, Fenrir was a race that wanted little to do with humans and rarely involved ourselves with them. The reason they killed us was for our magic stone. It contained our soul force, which allowed us to build up mana and live forever. The humans used that to power their seas and gain more power throughout their kingdoms. But Fenrir was thought to be going extinct, and the humans sought other methods. So our soul stones were mainly bought as jewelry and passed down as heirlooms. It was a gross and despicable thing. Fenrir never truly died, even in that form. They just waited to be returned to the forest for rebirth. They probably never will return ever. We came to the ancestral plane to have our meal blessed by our ancestors before we ate. Mother dropped the unicorn on the altar made of one of the sacred oaks. The unicorn lay still. Then we bow our head and let our soul stones absorb the unicorn's magical energy. It gradually disappeared, and the altar returned to its empty state. Always remember to give thanks to those who sacrificed themselves for our survival and pray that one day they may return to us. Yes, Mother. We turned away from the altar and began walking to the ruins, built by the beastmen in honor of the Fenrir. Mother picked me up by the scruff and walked into an old church. She then lay down and set me down. You are dirty. Lay still. She began licking my fur, getting rid of the dirt from today's hunt. I began to enjoy her tongue as she licked me from head to tail. I felt a smell tickle my nose. I wiggled my nose in the direction of the smell. Mother, what that? Mother had noticed before I ever did cause. She immediately picked me up again and ran out of the ruins. I saw orange lights coming from the opposite side of the ruin entrance. Voices could be heard. Humans! Mother ran with all her might, jumping over the rocks, trees, and bushes. She halted as 9 humans had blockaded the forest. Well, shit, here we're doing extermination, and a literal mountain of gold jumps into our trap. The man who said was a dark knight that rode on a black horse covered in black armor. He had a shield on. It was an emblem depicting green lizard pierced by a lance. Mother ran to her left to escape the blockade. Quick, don't let it escape. 5 gold for anyone able to land a hit on it. Mother kept running, never stopping. Blockades were set all over the forest. The further she ran, the more common they got. The humans had set this up a long time ago, more than likely to exterminate the surrounding monsters and burn the forest for territorial expansion. I noticed Mother began slowing down. Rat spots began appearing on her fur. A cliff in the shape of a bow came into view. She set me down and put me between her legs. The humans were in front of us, more than 600. They trapped us. 2 in 1, look at that. Isn't that double the money? Idiot, it's too small. We could capture it and sell it as a pet to a wealthy noble. Oh man, that's a great idea. Archers. The sounds of the strings of bows could be heard. My mother, not looking at me, but yet acknowledging me, spoke. My son, forgive your mother for what she is going to do. Never do this, for it will end your life cycle. The only way for me to save you is to self-detonate my core. There is a way to bring me back. You must gather as much medica into my empty core, then bring me back to the world stone to rebuild my body. Mother, don't leave me. I'm sorry, my son. Then, without another word, her magic stone was ripped from her chest and glowed a brilliant blue light. As if crying, a small drop drew down its edge. Then it went white. My eyes slowly opened. I let out a long sigh. Leaves that had entered my nose blew out from my breath. The dream again, huh? Slowly moved my humongous body upwards. My massive frame reached the canopy. Moss, twigs, weeds, and dirt fell off my fur from my century-long sleep. Animals fled from all directions. Small rodents that made their nest inside my fur panicked and jumped off. I yawned, looked up to the sky with my one eye. The sun rose to the mid-sky, indicating it was midday. I furrowed my brows and snarled. I looked away from the ever-bright sun and wished it would disappear. I began walking forward. Each step made deep holes in the undergrowth of the forest. Trees snapped like twigs as I made a path through the forest. A small wyvern was angry that I disturbed. It began to fly at my face. Zap! Crunch, crunch, crunch. The sounds of bones could be heard as I ate the wyvern whole. I'm still hungry. My massive frame required the consumption of epic proportions. Even now I hadn't finished growing. I began to hunt down the larger monsters in the area. A basilisk fled with haste as I chased it slowly through the undergrowth. This continued for a while, till it got tired. Within, I got tired of playing and snapped its neck with a shake. I bit the basilisk into and swallowed the front portion whole, followed by the lower. Satisfied, after practically devastating the entire ecosystem, I continued on in boredom. I continued to the outer reaches of the forest. Within, my body shrunk rapidly to the size of a white wolf. The rest of the debris that didn't come off before fell to the ground like an earth slide. I walked forward, then began breaking into a run. The occasional monster jumped out to attack me, only to be made into a rag doll as I snapped its neck instantly. After a while, some open green plains came into view. As changed, I looked in both directions. As far as my mind, I could see nothing but horrible open green plains could be seen. A century ago, before I went to sleep, the forest covered this entire area. I walked for a good amount of time, until the sun turned red for the evening. I chose a steep hill overlooking the area to look for unwanted guests. I lay down, crossed my forepaws, and put my head to rest. The next day, I woke up to a bright morning and continued my journey through the grassy plains. In the distance, I saw 2 leaded hairless monkeys in armor chasing a pack of wolves. I stared intently at the 5 humans slaughtering the pack of wolves, fleeing for their lives. There were 5 humans and 4 wolves. An arrow from a female elf with a male collar hit the run, lagging behind the rest. Just like that, he was dead. After another 4 arrows pierced its body. Before long, another went down, then another. I snarled unconcerned and was about to leave till one of the wolves dropped a small runt onto the ground. The female wolf put the runt between her legs to protect it from harm. A large male human drew an iron mace from his side and began walking up to her. A traumatic memory flashed through my mind uncontrollably. I stumbled, almost fell down, but regained myself. I looked at my male human with pure rage. My face contorted and my fangs drew out. GNARLERACKCK. Saliva dripped from my mouth as snarled as loud as a war horn. The male human, who rose his mace above his head, stopped dead in his tracks. He looked my direction and immediately yelled and gave orders to the rest of his apes to reorganize and defend. I ran directly at the human who had the mace and tackled him to the ground. He put the mace handle in my mouth to stop me from mangling his throat. However smart that would be, it was nothing more than a rotting twig. It snapped and I dug my fangs into his throat and shook my head. A nasty crunch sounded through the air. A human female yelled in horror as the man's limbs went limp. I let go and licked the blood off my lips. I turned at the Ullian archer next, but lost interest as I saw that there was no fun in killing a monkey that was forced to fight against its will. I then turned to the screaming ape that was agonizing over its companion. I jumped at her faster than the others could react and crushed her skull. Sweet mushy goo could be tasted through my entire mouth. The rest of the apes feared no better, only the elf survived. I walked over to the female first and began lapping up the pink goo on the ground. After that, I tore out her stomach and ate her innards. This was the law of the jungle. After I had eaten the last bit of the human weaklings, I turned and walked back to the forest. It seemed that I had two annoying vermin on my tail. The female wolf followed me in the end and kept a steady pace. When I stopped, she stopped when she ran. This continued until I reached my hollow, which then the female put the runt at my feet and ran off. The runt looked up at me in admiration. Uninterested, I ignored the runt and walked into my den and fell asleep. It seems to have gotten troublesome. When I woke up, the runt had multiplied. To be precise, the female wolf brought back a pack of wolves along with a few other furry vermin. Before me stood a mixture of four beast races: beastmen, beastkin, wolves, and war races. The beastmen were a race of humanoid beasts that stood upright but had animal features such as wolfmen, centaurs, mermaids, arakan, harpy, fishmen, etc. Beastkin were no different than humans other than the ears that stood on the top of the head. The current bunch were rabbit clansmen, bear clansmen, wolf clansmen, fox clansmen. The wolf were, well, just wolves. Then came the war races. They were a type of humanoidish creature that looked like large muscular brutes covered in fur. I lamented saving the two. There were at least a couple thousand vermin in front of my den. God damn it. All of them were currently kneeling at my feet. What is it that you want? I said in an arrogant and bold voice. The female wolf from before came up to me and lowered her head without looking at me. "Oh, Emperor of the Forest, please grant us respite within your domain, for we wish for your immortal and powerful protection." The humans have overpopulated the continent and enslaved many races. They burn our habitat, kill our kin, and rape our sisters and wives. You think I can protect you? Your grace, you are invincible, for you cannot die. Ha 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 ha, invincible. I cannot die. Ha, you fool. If I were invincible, then why have I lost my right eye? Why do I have the scar on my face? If I cannot die, why am I the last of my kind? The group drew back in fear of my wrath. I felt bad that I lost my temper and apologized. "I'm sorry. I lost control of myself. It is not your fault." "No, it was my words seemed to have offended the Emperor. It is my fault." "Forget it. I alone cannot protect you, nor can I satisfy your thirst for revenge. Please leave. Lord, if we may give you a gift." Scoff. As pathetic and futile that maybe I will look at your gift before throwing you. 3 beastkin brought forth an open chest, and 3 objects could be seen within. The cloudy round objects would then stop me in my tracks. As I was about to turn away, the 3 magic stones reflected in my one eye. That could it be? I stared at the 3 orbs in disbelief, hoping that this wasn't a dream. I walked ever so carefully up to the 3 soul stones. I carefully picked up all 3 in my mouth. I went back into the den. Deep within was a stone altar. On it were 7 bowl-shaped holes with fur already filled. I placed the 3 orbs within the altar. A light filled the room as cracks of light spread out like a spider web. The sound of hearts beating could be heard. The 7 orbs floated above the altar and began forming 7 clouds of mana. After a while, they took the form of 7 large white wolves. Though compared to me, they were a little smaller. Just given form and reborn anew, 7-fingered pups stood before me. I was not alone anymore. Where am I? What is this place? I swear I was killed by that hero. Have we really been reborn? By the forest, I came back. The torment is over. May I be blessed? My son, where is my darling son? As I looked at the 4 pups, my black heart beat once more. I finally did it. After 600 years of killing and torment, I brought back the Fenrir. Mother, I am here. I kept my promise. Truly, is that you? Oh, my son, how much I miss you. Your face, your eye is gone. How much have you suffered? Damn those wretched humans. Death to them all. We need to eliminate every last one. Mother, there is something I must do, as I owe a debt to the ones who helped us. With that, I let them get used to their bodies and walked to the den entrance. There all the races again kneeled in worship. Today you have brought a miracle back to your gods and restored them to life. For that we owe you a great debt. that will be repaid with the blood of humans. Oh. We will take back our lands and slaughter and enslave every last human. There will be no escape. We are the rulers of the forest. None can escape our maws. We will rebuild our homes, then raise an army, and take our fight to those insolent apes that desecrate and burn our lands. This was a beginning for a dark age of total war, a war known for ages to come as the demon wolf's reign of terror. The young girl stretched her arms and yawned. Pulling the blanket off her body, she came to the edge of the bed. Clank! She poured a glass of water from a wooden pitcher into a clay glass. After drinking it down, she rose out of bed and walked to the opposite side of the small room to a wooden drawer. She pulled out a work dress and a pair of white underwear. She stripped off her pajamas and returned to a natural state. Grabbing a pail of water in the corner of the room, she went to the hand pump in the kitchen. After filling it, she carried it to a corner of the room with where a patch of dirt lay uncovered with peat moss. She sat her down on a stool and took a bath. Using a rock to soap up her hair and a dipper to rinse, it took her 10 minutes. After getting dressed, she began preparing her breakfast. Looks like a beautiful day, she said as she opened the kitchen shutters. Today's breakfast was pork and wheat stew. N.M. Satisfied, she walked outside and went behind the house to feed the chickens. "Oi, Syria, can you help pick tomatoes in the field today?" "Sure, let me just water the herbs in the garden and I'll be right over." Syria was quite liked in Dying Village. Spotless skin, long green hair, angelic voice. She had a sweet personality. She treated everyone's wounds with magic. She was called Miss Angel by most villagers. She had been proposed to a multitude of times. She was everything a man wanted. She was even more popular with all the women in the village. When she got done watering the herbs, she headed out to the fields to help Oz pick ripened tomatoes. "This is the best harvest, yet thanks to your magic, we have great crops every year." "I'm glad to help." The tomatoes using her magic to grow in size were twice as big as the biggest tomatoes you could find elsewhere. "Oh, what is it, Syria?" "Oh, must have been my imagination, silly me." She stuck out her tongue and nodded her head. Truth be told, she saw several wolves hiding in the wheat fields, stalking the wheat farmers. "Man, if we keep going like this, we'll be finished in OT." Ignoring the man talking, she picked tomatoes and watched 3 wolves silently take down a villager. It was an instant kill. Before he had time, so screamed his throat was mangled, and no air could escape his throat. "Speaking, can you put the ones you picked in that basket over there?" "Sure." She dumped the tomatoes in her handbasket in the storage one, then continued to observe the wolves in the wheat fields. "I believe that girl was named Shah, right? Pity. I quite enjoyed our talks." "You say something." "No." After about 5 more people, someone finally yelled out, "There's something in the wheat file." That was the last incomplete phrase he said before his life ended. The other villagers got cautious and ran out of the fields. They grabbed weapons from the shed and guarded the entrance to the field. After a while, nothing happened. Still, they waited for the others to come out. Nothing happened. No voices, no screams, just silence. It was eerily quiet. The wind swept over the fields with no sound, and as if to break the silence, a scream of terror came from the pumpkin patch. 3 wolves jumped out of the forest and began dragging a man alive into the forest. A villager with a howl ran over and tried to hit the wolves to make them release him. But one of the wolves dropped its attention from the screaming man and attacked the man with the howl at the same time. 4 wolves burst out of the forest and ran into the vegetable fields. The screaming man was dragged into the forest where his screams abruptly stopped. 3 more people ended up the same way, being dragged into the forest, never to be heard again. After the 3 men were dragged off, the attack stopped, and the villagers withdrew to their huts. That night nobody slept. Everyone woke up at dawn and drew straws to see who would go to the fortress city verdant to call for adventurers to exterminate the wolves. A young boy at the age of 15 drew the short straw. He was given a horse and 5 gold coins for the request reward. He rode off into the distance, never to be heard of again. The townspeople did not go picking in the fields. They waited for help from the adventurers. The day passed, and the night fell like a cycle of a wheel. No help came. The villagers began to panic, but they knew that a merchant group along with the army would come in 2 weeks. So they stocked up on food, blocked off their huts, and bunkered down. 2 days later, a villager came out to see a neighbor. He knocked on the door only to see that the door was unlocked and open. He looked inside to find that his neighbor had disappeared along with his family. When he looked into his neighbor's room, he found claw marks and saw that something had been dragged to a corner of the floor. There was no window there yet. It looked as if someone had been dragged to that corner and disappeared. The man warned the village chief, and the village chief said to not open your doors at night. The following day again, but was found empty with no one inside with claws and drag marks inside. The village chief said to board up your windows and seal the door to make sure nothing could get in. Yet same scenario happened over and over. The villagers gathered their families into 3 buildings, sealed any entrance, and took up any available weapon possible. They took turns watching through cracks in the walls. This seemed to work. For a little while, Syria looked at the young child, entangled by vines. She looked at him sweetly, gently, lovingly, longingly, hungrily. How long had it been since she ate this much? She caressed the boy's hair, smelled it, and kissed his forehead. I don't want to, sniff, die. Oh, sweet adorable lamb, you have no choice. I raised this entire flock to butcher after all. A vine whipped through the ear and pierced the boy's chest. Worm-like veins began to appear on his chest. They continued to his abdomen, where they grew slightly larger and began to pulse. The vine seemed to glow a translucent red like a tube. On one side, a yellow liquid ran out and a red ounce came in. The boy slowly began to turn into a patch of skin. You monster. How could you do this, Syria? We trusted you. You helped us with everything we did. This village is a family. Several villagers were underground, locked in cages hanging from the roof of a cave. The cages were made of roots of a plant. The cave was located directly under the village. Such an exquisite taste. She had raised this flock for him in case one day she needed her. She had set her roots all over the Western Kingdom. The entire area was a flock of sheep raised for slaughter. 3 cities and 32 villages were built on top of her. Syria is the oldest Iran on the eastern continent. She fell in love with the man the moment she saw him. Like the giant beast he was, he rushed in and slaughtered the empire's men and saved her from being uprooted. That was 200 years ago. After he disappeared, she built an entire kingdom over her body and helped humans prosper so she could slaughter them later. Her magic affected their minds, and her energy made their fields flourish. The crops they ate made them obey her unknowingly. She kept her identity secret and hid among them for 200 years. Then with a stroke of luck, he came to her with his order. She now could use her zombie-like slaves to attack the world leaders without having to be there with them. She regretted not being able to move from the Western Kingdom, but with her life seeds implanted in every human in the Western Kingdom, she could plant herself everywhere in the world. Love is so. She kept a few villages as cattle for food, hence the cave she called the Love Dungeon. She loved people. She loved watching them ask for mercy as she skinned them alive, dissolved their eyes, tore out their organs, and made them squeal in pain. So it needs me to extract information, huh? She walked over to a table filled with all kinds of unspeakable torture tools. She picked up a syringe and flicked at a cage lowered from the ceiling. No. A muscular man in his 30s was in the cage. He backed as far away as he could. Unfortunately, the cage was made for one person, so there wasn't anywhere to go. Experiment number 570. Weight 120 pounds. Average muscular build. Sexually active. The last subject took 1 dose. His kidneys couldn't handle the serum and his kidneys exploded. After refining the recipe, I believe we should see some better results. Syria attached the syringe to a vine. The vine coiled around his neck and stuck the needle. The pink fluid emptied out and the vine released him. The man held his throat in agonizing pain before going limp. Afterward, his eyes clouded over and his skin turned green. His limbs turned into thick vine-like appendages. One arm was super skinny while one was ridiculously large. His body began to turn from human shape to an ugly horrendous plant monster. Where his heart was now a monster's core. His head has been dwarfed by his body. His face contorted in a permanent scream with his tongue lolled out of his mouth. Go join the others. She had injected them with herself. Their bodies had been parasitized so she could use them to spread herself in distant countries. When they found a perfect place to plant, they would dig into the soil, where the core in their body would slowly expand the parasite her roots into the soil till it ran out of mana and died. Then she would root herself in that area permanently. She loved people, so she wanted to spread her love to everyone in the world. Everyone needed to be loved by her equally. If only the previous me hadn't failed my father. She lamented not being able to see him again, but even if she was alone in this world, she wanted to express her love to everyone. She wasn't alone. She had everyone to share her love with. Yes, him. He was her love. That beast who saved her life. If only she could bear his children. She wanted the ability of a human womb so badly. I'm so close to replication. Just a few more human sacrifices. Come now, human girl, let me show you my love. With a gesture, another cage came down from the ceiling. Don. Creak. The sounds of wood being cut and the sounds of hammers could be heard throughout the forest. The beast races, for the first time in a century, had decided to stop running and fight against human oppression. What they needed more than anything was a place to call home, a sanctuary within the forest, guarded by the gods of the beast folk. The beast races had long revered the Fenrir as the protectors of the forest. The humans had told the beast folk that the Fenrir had been hunted to complete extinction. The beast folk did not believe this and scoured the ancestral forest of the Fenrir. The beast folk sent a party to the ruins and found thousands of bones of their once revered Fenrir. The beast folk, enraged, gathered a 4 million strong army. The humans who had long been preparing for that occasion released a toxic gas that would cause blindness and skin lesions to beast folk on the battlefield. After the gas kicked in, the humans slaughtered all the beast folk. Defeated and humiliated, the beast folk retreated to the corners of the lands, where they were slowly hunted and enslaved. But a light shined in the darkness of the beast race's hearts. It was said that a Fenrir was spotted in the heart of the Cataclysm Forest. They sent scouts to the western region of the eastern continent. Humans did not know why, but they still hunted them down before they could get there. Come a century later, a direwolf by the name of Kara led her family to the border of the forest, where they were beset by humans and saved by a Fenrir. She immediately returned to the last retreat where the beast races resided and told them the news. The beast races of every kind braved the danger and followed Kara to the resting place of the last Fenrir. And now, a wolf watched from atop a large rock, looking down at the beast folk building a small town below. With one eye he observed the trees he planted 100 years ago being cut down. He did not say anything. He did not move to stop them. With one eye he just observed. The pattering of paws could be heard behind him. A reborn Fenrir named Sue walked up and sat her down. The one-eyed Fenrir did not remove his gaze but continued observing the beast folk build. It's okay to cry. I'm not going to cry. It's hard to give things up sometimes. Sometimes you just need to give things up. I don't know what you're talking about. What it means is sometimes it hurts to see hard work go down the drain. Another female Fenrir came up from behind. It's not going down the drain. We get it, buddy. Just let it out. I told you I'm not upset. I'll give you some space. Just come talk to me when you're done sulking. I'm not sulking. The two Fenrir left, leaving him alone. I'm not sulking. It's just I buried something under those trees. Now I'll never find it. The sound of more paws could be heard behind. What is it now? Oh, Emperor of the Forest. The one-eyed Fenrir looked behind without completely turning his head. What? It's just that we have been here for days, and we still don't know what to call you. I don't have a name. That is. The Fenrir thought for a moment, then remembered what the humans called him, the name that was feared amongst all. Call me Lycaon. The wolves lowered their heads and left, leaving Lycaon alone. He returned his attention back to the beast folk building the sanctuary. He thought back on the last time he associated himself this much with other beings. He had always been a loner since he was just a pup. He never let anyone join him. He always sought revenge on his own. Perhaps it would still have his right eye if he had just sought out help from the beginning. This? Interesting. A familiar presence could be felt stumbling about in the forest. He had thought nothing of it then, but our will to live is admirable. So be it. You've made your point. He got up from his rock and vanished into thin air. Somewhere in the forest, a blonde girl sought desperate help. My legs were in tatters. Maggots had infested my wounds. I kept going aimlessly trudging through. I did not know my direction, but if I kept going, surely I would find it. That monster who killed that bastard. Perhaps if I could use my taming magic on it, I could kill my sister, my mother, my father, the slave merchant, the slaves in the cages. All of them needed to be killed, slaughtered like the animals they were. She had once been a beautiful priestess that served the holy city of Ecbatana's Supreme Church. She was loved by all the people. When the hero went off to war, she was chosen to go with him. She helped the hero throughout the journey. She fell in love with him and conceived a child. The hero party returned from a mission, and she decided to stay in the capital to give birth. She went to the mansion to give good news. Her mother gave her congratulations while her dad gave her his blessing. She, however, did not get any good favor from her sister. I wouldn't get to high and mighty just yet, sister. She was saddened by her sister's insults, but she didn't want that to affect her mood. When the time came, and she gave birth, the hero left for a mission from the church. She felt sad, but he was the hero and he was busy, so it couldn't be helped. After a week, the hero came back and visited the mansion. She went to go greet him, but stopped at her sister's room to find the hero cheating. She fell to her knees and cried while watching her sister have intimate sex with the hero. He never acted this way when he was with her. It was much more intimate than it was with her. She ran to her room and huddled into a corner wishing it was just a dream. Then the morning came and soldiers came into her room, threw her to the ground, and put a slave collar around her neck. She was stunned. She couldn't figure out what was going on. When she was dragged out of the mansion, she saw her sister waving a vial of liquid in her hand, cradling her baby. Don't worry, I won't hurt him, dear sister, but I think he'll be just fine as my son, right? She was put on trial for colluding with the gyro to poison the king. The hero had been found in the king's bedroom with a bottle of powdered hemlock. The same powder was found in her belongings on her horse. She now knew what that vial was in her sister's hand was. She had been framed. Her parents disowned her and did not show up at her trial. Her sister showed up and threw lies like, I tried to stop her, or, I can't believe she would do this. Her sister even pleaded for her mercy and asked for a lighter punishment. Since she was a priestess, she couldn't be executed as she was chosen by the goddess. In the end, it was decided she was to be enslaved and sold for a high price on the market. She was bought by a noble, who raped her over and over after he got tired of her as sold her. Then she was bought by an alchemist for experiments. He scarred her face and poured acid-like liquids down her throat. Then she was sold to the army, where she was taught to use the bow. After that, she was pretty much useless and sold as cannon fodder to an adventurer. Her hatred for her sister and all of her family was what kept her alive, hoping one day we should be able to torture them like she was. Even now she trudged through the dark forest hoping that she could enslave the wolf so she could kill them all. Your heart is as black as mine. She turned in the direction of the voice and cast a spell. Bind. You have great potential. It is sad you have fallen this far, elf. There was nothing there. No, there was. It just moved too fast. Clairvoyance. Those spells are useless. I'm not done. She cast clairvoyance to catch his movements. Death pit. Oh. The wolf had stepped into her trap. She turned the entire ground into quicksand. When she saw that the white wolf was caught, she cast her taming spell. Nature's binding contract. Goddess of the hunt, I ask that you bind your child to my soul. Green chains shot out of the ground and formed a cocoon around the wolf. You're mine. This spell is pathetic. I will show you how it's truly used. Girl. The cocoon shattered and red chains shot out at her, enveloping her completely. This spell bound the soul. There was no escape. With this, her goal of revenge turned into a shattered dream. Lost. With that, her fatigue took over and she fell into a deep sleep. Clop, 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 clop. The female knight's stilettos echoed through the dark passageway. The light from the torches barely lit up the long corridor. Yet despite the fact that there was little light, the beautiful girl's blonde hair and blue eyes seemed to glow. Her hair seemed to reflect the moonlight that filtered through the castle windows. The starlight outside was extremely visible, and a vast array of constellations could be seen. The brilliant colors in the night sky were indescribable. She stopped for a second and looked out the window. Pressing her hand against the glass, she reached out as if to grab them. Truly, humans are the one race blessed by the goddess. If this is not the case, how can I witness such a miraculous sight? Humans were chosen to lead the world by the goddess, and all other races needed to die out. Humans and elves had long for centuries ruled the world with an iron fist. Elves were thought to have been an enemy of mankind, but humans and elves had put them behind ever since the destruction of the empire 200 years ago, under the hands of a single powerful enemy. Humans and elves had to work together for the first time to drive back the monster that destroyed nearly all of the Unitum Humanae Imperii. The elves were met with the same situation when the monster turned its thirst for destruction on the Trog forest. The elves with nowhere to go allied with the humans to create a spell that will drag a being from another plane to help them. Using every bit of strength they managed to wound the monster and drive it back. A pact was made that should the monster ever come back, they would ally once more to annihilate the monster for good. The pact was called the New Humanity Agreement. Drawing her hand to her chest, then making a salute, she pledged to eliminate all of humanity's enemies. I guess I should hurry and get ready for bed. She kept walking down the hallway, coming to a double door that a knight in shining silver armor were guarding. When she walked to the door, the knight saluted and a maid inside opened it. Late again, I see. Yes, I felt the need to train in the moonlight. Could you not achieve the same in a darker room? It's different. The maid nodded, then helped the knight take off her armor. The sturdy light blue alloy was impenetrable by iron or steel buttons, but lighter than almost anything you could make out of other metals. The best craftsmen in the kingdom came together to make this armor in honor of her 18th birthday. After putting her nightgown on, she walked over to her desk and began looking at today's reports. Looking through them one by one, she found a letter taped to the back of one of them. She opened it and it read as follows. Princess, by the time you get this, I will already be dead. You must read this carefully and tell no one. The knight captain and the general of the army are demi-human traitors. They have infiltrated our entire system. I am currently under siege by a combined force of my own men and Emiruses. The king will be slain. There is no escape for him. You must flee to the neighboring kingdom of Algarith. Take only who you've known your whole life. Do not take any guards. I don't know who's all working together. My life is forfeited. Give up on me. Take haste at once. Remember, sister, I always loved you. Your brother Mary. Son. The sound of a knife being drawn could be heard. The princess grabbed her sword that was in its sheath and blocked the maid that had just tried to stab her. The maid was 5 inches from her face. She had a maniacal smile on her face. She gave a muffled laugh and jumped back. The princess drew her sword and took a stance. The maid rushed in like an arrow and stabbed inwards. The princess deflected it but got cut on her hip. The maid spun around midair and slashed down, cutting the princess's leg. The princess jumped back, grabbed an ink bottle off the desk, and threw in the maid's eyes. Yeah, my eyes. You slut. I'll fucking kill you. The princess didn't miss this chance, and slashed at the maid's throat. Quack, ack, ack. With a thud, the maid collapsed to the ground. The princess heard a commotion outside the window. Walking over to it, she opened it up and saw a large city glowing orange. How is this possible? How are there so many traitors? Grabbing her armor and putting it on, she fled the castle with her sister and her childhood friends. Where is Her Highness the Princess? A fat man came running through the hallway. In a panic, he tripped over his right foot and did a barrel roll. A large knight covered in head to toe in silver armor walked out of the shadows of a pillar in the hallway. Baron Bawangich, what is the meaning of this yelling so late at night? Never mind that, you must tell the princess at once. The fortress city of Verdun has fallen in the hands of demi-humans. Impossible. Nonsense. The Duke Mariellis Dre Fango governs that entire region. I should have your younger cut out for your lies. Men, come, take this pig out of the castle and hang him. No, I'm telling the truth. Wait, no, The Silver Knight smiled. That was the third messenger he had killed this week. He had been given a task to keep the princess in the dark about everything currently going on in the Duke's region. Now that his job would be done by tomorrow, he just needed to kill the king and flee with his comrades. This kingdom is corrupt. It's time that it needs to wake up. He opened a pocket in his hand. In the locker was a man with decayed demi-humans. He closed it and laughed. You're finally dead, huh? Ha 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 ha. He had gotten what he wanted all these years. He no longer had to hide his family from the nosy prick. All this time, and he finally moved. Ha 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 ha. I wasn't expecting this. What a great moment in history this will be. The knight laughed happily as he walked with his chest out. The female elf lay on a newly created bed fast asleep. Syria used her weird medical knowledge to remove the parasites and diseases within her body and restored her looks. Her bones had been broken in different places, so the treatment required what Syria called an ORIF. Personally, my opinion was she wanted to satisfy that odd torture hobby of hers. Her methods might be unique, but they are efficient and useful. I met Syria when I was destroying a random Imperial march. Evidently she had been beset by humans that wanted to kill her. I just happened to see an armed man I was looking for and killed the entire army. She promised to serve me ever since, and that's where she started to pick up her weird hobbies. She was necessary to complete a takeover of the entire western region without her little to no casualties. She had placed her spores into all the humans in the western region. She could use them like slaves that did whatever she wanted. They could move on what they thought was their own free will, but in reality, it was her that put that decision to kill their son for staying out late. No matter how unreasonable it may be, they always thought of it as their own free will. For example, turning the entire army against itself. No one would know who the enemy is, and you had no way of knowing that your best friend was a demi-human collaborator, or that you yourself were working for the demi-humans yourself. Everything is justified. Even with the numbers we had now, it would be easy to undermine an entire empire without much difficulty. If she could plant herself everywhere, a country could fall every year. She just needed time to spread her spores. We will rendezvous with the Duke's army in the Fates Plains, south of Dying Village. There, we will march and organize our siege equipment. We could easily just open the gates, but I like spreading terror amongst the humans. I believe the next time we should open the gates, this will cause the humans to think there are more traitors amongst them. That will make them point fingers at each other, blaming them for colluding with demi-humans. I think the capital should be a good place for that. A show of force and a quick and easy victory. With that, the wartime planning was finished, and we began preparing to make siege equipment. I went over to Syria's new hospital. She had specifically asked for a bunch of weird tools and equipment. I didn't know what the word hospital meant, or what these weird objects are, but I'm pretty sure I don't care. The sanctuary now was the size of a small town. The houses were different depending on the race that lived in it. Syria suggested that we build a school and a government building, as well as build roads and neighborhoods in cross-sections. The roads were built wide and made of white stone. I wonder where she gets her ideas from. I thought about all the humans she tortured. I shivered and stopped myself from thinking about it. I went into the hospital and went to the room marked as her. Inside, I saw Syria using a magic tool to screw in a tiny metal object into the broken hip bone of the elf. Syria had basically filleted open the elf and put a tube inside the elf's mouth. Even if it's you, my sweetie bunch, you should peek on my artwork before it's finished. I just told you to fix her, not turn her into art. Ooh, you're no fun. I was only joking. Not even looking back once, she kept working without stopping even while talking. Can she be fixed? Oh, I'm sure of it. There are a lot more things I couldn't do with magic than I couldn't do on Earth. Earth? Oh, don't mind it. Just something you wouldn't understand. I don't understand anything you say. That's the way I like you. Sometimes you remind me of my father. I thought there are no male arms. Terror, oh, it's nothing. She was laughing, but I could smell a tinge of sadness and loneliness in her heart. Then poof, it was gone. Word replaced, it was true love. I will be done in 12 hours, but you won't be able to see her for a while, so do what you need to do in the meantime. I walked out there, and for a moment, I thought I heard her say, "Oh, I finally figured it out." Snoring could be heard from on top of a wall. A young man who had been assigned to guard duty had grown bored and decided to take a short nap. Katsu, Katsu, Katsu. From across the young man was a set of stairs going down the wall. An old man in armor was walking up the wall. "TCH again, huh?" The old man clicked his tongue and kicked the young man as hard as he could. "Gah!" The old man, who looked like he was 70, kicked the young man for meters, just stopping a few fingers' length of falling off the front of the wall and into the moat below. That hurt. You have guts, kid. I like you. Since you're brave enough to take a nap on guard duty, why don't I have you wake everyone else up and do some training exercise?" The young man looked up at the old man. In horror, he still remembered what happened last time he got caught. He turned pale and threw up. "Go out." "Yes, sir. If we wake them up now, won't that interrupt the sleeping schedule?" "It's okay. It's not like they can't use some good training. Now get off, you ass Private Arson." The young Private Arson immediately jumped up and ran down the stairs. "Should I take a break for just a few seconds, and the old bastard chews me out?" Fuck. Arson had recently been forced to join the Kingdom's Guardsmen because of the increase of demi-human sightings. He originally had been taking care of his sick mother while running his late father's shop. His father was half Cathanan. Cathanan were of demi-human descent and occasionally were born with cat ears. His father had been born with cat ears but had been able to hide it. Arson's parents opened a tea shop just before he was born. A few months after they settled down, his father contracted a flu only known to infect beastmen. His mother sought a herbalist hoping to cure him. However, when they found the cause of his illness, he was arrested and executed. His mother fell into despair and also contracted an unknown illness. He hadn't been able to see his mother in 3 weeks. He was concerned and asked for a day off. He was given permission to see her after 3 weeks' time. However, on the day he was supposed to leave, he was given guard duty on the wall. Fuck me, man. My life sucks. As he walked down the stairs, he saw a man in the corner of his eyes hiding in one of the balusters. Before he knew it, he felt a hand on his mouth and a pain in his neck, struggling to breathe. He collapsed on the floor, drowning in his blood. As his vision began to fade away, he heard the man say something in a girlish tone. That was a bad one, oopsie me." The old man named Geese sat on a chair looking over the darkness below the wall. He was old for sure, but he in no way was frail. He still had enough muscle as one did in his early 40s. The gray hair and a deep scar across his face would tell a fellow warrior about a hard-fought battle long ago. He would brag about his battle with a monster that could scatter acid in all directions, could melt a blade by just touching it, and a hard green skin that would repel a mithril blade. It was a monster called a lurker. When one died in a swamp, if there was enough malice around, you might come back as a monster that looked like a mixture of a zombie and a plant. You remained entirely conscious while you're in that state, but your instincts would drive you to convert other people. Usually, it's a low-class monster, slow and tacky. You could easily defeat it with fire or ice magic. Even cutting it enough would do. It wasn't the most undefeatable thing in the world, but the one he battled was unusually strong. Its movements were so fast and strong, it could move the plants around it. Vines would drag his men into deep underground caves. They could be heard screaming until their screams grew faint and could be heard no more. The only one that survived that monster was him alone. The truth was he wasn't able to kill it and only drove it away. He still had nightmares to this day. HNMMPH. The geese sighed tiredly. He turned his attention to the man who was coming up the stairs. The man saluted, then gave a report. "I have orders from His Highness to relieve you of your duty for the night." That's odd. I wasn't notified by His Highness' personal guard about this. It's just now coming in. His Highness Duke Vango told me himself to report to you directly, Commander. Geese put his hand on his blade. I understand, but let me ask you a question. Why would His Highness, the second Prince, Duke Vango, personally give orders to a mere soldier? As I said, before I was given orders by His Highness, sweet darling of mine. As the man said that, his voice changed to that of a female. His eyes turned a glowing green color. TCH, the fuck is going on with you? Are you possessed or something? That's a difficult question. What do you mean by possessed? Oh, do you mean by demonic possession? That would be a no. This body was mine to begin with. It was mine when it was born, it's mine when it's now. Technically so do you and everyone else. But your personality is a little bit strong, and I can't do anything about that. In any case, you die here. Sorry, not sorry. Tire her. Underneath the soldier's skin, worm-like tentacles could be seen. Flesh could be heard moving underneath the skin, as if the muscle was being reinforced by the tentacles. The soldier's sweet girl-like voice completely mismatched the possessed soldier. Gross. The soldier came at an insane speed and swung his blade down from overhead. Pathetic. If that's all you got, then you're just another commoner with a sword. The old man, contrary to his age, moved at a speed out of common sense to everyone else's age. With his speed and skill, he cleaved the soldier in two. Footsteps could be heard of the distance as soldiers came up hearing the fight. Tentacles could be seen growing out of the man's two halves, pulling it together. The two halves connected and the wound sealed up. The man rose and readied his sword as if nothing happened. What the hell? You'll have to excuse me. I'm not too good at this. I never was good with the sword. Shall we go again? The soldier rushed in again and again with the same result. Pretty soon the soldiers in the distance reached the two of them. Well now, what will you do? You're outnumbered. Even if you can regenerate, we'll just cut you up until you can't. I think you're misunderstanding something. When I said you and everyone else belongs to me, there were 11 soldiers, all of which drew their swords and surrounded Geese. That means, all at once perfectly in sync. Everybody,